back to Power Panel 365. This is your host, Star Coates. I'd like to give honor and praise to God. Thank you all for being here with me this morning. And thank you for those that are listening and have tuned in. This morning, I'm going to talk about King James. So the first verse I'm going to go over to Ecclesiasticus 5:15. Be not ignorant of anything in a great manner or a small. So some of the images that you're seeing of King James, they can be found at the new college, the University of Edinburgh, that is in Scotland. And King James was one of the people, I guess that was like a founder of the school. And the school used to be, or the university used to be named after him. In 1617, it was called the King James. I guess they decided that they wanted to change the name sometime later. But this college decided that they were going to show some things within their library, some real true images of King James, which blew a lot of people's minds because we were seeing the European images of King James all this time. And to find out that King James was a black man really blew some lids off. So then a lot of people started doing some digging to find out, okay, well, if he's black, then his descendants have to be black. So you're going to be seeing a lot of images here today of King James and his family and some characteristics of the family. So I wasn't just listening to what people were saying when they started to say, oh, King James is black. I analyzed, okay, well, if King James is black, what does his parents look like? You know, that was one of the questions. And I came across Henry, his father, and Anne, his mother. And some of the depictions that we see over time, I didn't go by, and when I say European, I guess it's more modern, what we would see, Caucasian, white, you know, whatever you guys want to say. And that's what I'm meaning by that, seeing those images being whitened. But I tried to go back and find some more older images of what his parents looked like, and his father on this photograph here, and his mother on the coins. Now, the two images of them do look very, they do have African features to me, or black features, especially his mother on that coin, you know. Even though some people might say, well, the coin is already dark. Well, still, those features still do. They remind me of people that I've seen, you know. So those were really key points of us even claiming or making a statement that King James is black. Well, what did his parents look like? The last coin is his mother and father together on a coin, which, you know, that one has been changed to, like, to broaden their noses or to make them look more sharp, or the hair, to make it look more like as if they were white. So those are some pretty good coins that I did find. The next point that I found a little interesting was photographs of King James and his wife. I wanted to know, okay, well, what did his wife look like? Because then, you know, later on we find that there's characteristics being described of his grandchildren that they're black. So that was one of the other interesting things. So I found quite a little bit actually about Anne, his wife, And even in her photographs, she does look black. And it's very hard to say, that she doesn't. And I was thinking even the shape of their hair, those puffs at the top, um, and to get your hair in even in that shape, I thought to myself, you would have to have like some pretty coarse or curly hair to get your hair in that shape. As far as like white people, they if they were to get their hair in that shape, they have to really tease it or mat it, or it have to be kind of curly, really, really curly and thick to get it within those shapes that they have. And they would have those like crown bonnet looking crowns. So that's a very interesting um, point. Even the hair is what really got me. Then there's the image of King James' daughter, um, and that one really got me too because I was looking at that big nose, and that hair. That and this is one of the only images that I could find that depicted her within line, their lineage, uh, and it's actually a really great coin that I had found. Now, this next one is supposed to be King Charles, King James' son. Now, this image came from the book Leviathan by Thomas Hobbes, which was controversial as well because people were saying, well, no, that's not really the image of King Charles the first or whatever. And if you read more commentary on the book, um, they wanted to present this book as a gift to the king. But what would piss the king off more than seeing an image of somebody else on the cover that doesn't even look like him, right? So I thought to myself, if I were king and they gave me this book and it didn't have my image on there, of course I'm going to be upset. So whether he got as close as he possibly could to the way that King Charles looked at that time, um, this is just another image that you're going to see when you do try to look up whether the fact of was King Charles black as well. This is going to be one of the images that pop up. That's why I've put this one up there. And um, I try to, and I even analyzed those original pictures of King James to this one, and I thought, well, they do still look very similar, um, whether or not they have the image 100% correct or not. I cannot say because I was not there at the time. But I thought, in a more logical way, if you're going to present this book to the king or give this to him as a gift or to pay homage or whatever you want to say, or to give honor to him, would you not make it as the image as close as possible to that person that you're going to present this to? Mind you, the last two people that you just seen, King Charles and then um, uh, Elizabeth Queen of, I believe it's Bohemian, if I'm saying that correctly. Um, they are brothers and sisters, so they do have very similar features. Whether or not, um, just like I said about the second image, you would have to um, realize what the people look like at the time, and if they're going to present the book to this king, would they make the image as close as possible to him, just to please him, that he would, take the book and honor it and, talk about it and so on. The next image is King Charles II. It's supposed to be King Charles I, is his son. Um, and some of the depictions of him as well have been changed over time. And this is one of the ones that I could find where um, it's something that I figured this would be something to show because it's very different from the other images that have been shown about him. Now I'm going to go over some of their characteristics, and this is from the Secret Services of John Mackey, Esquire, probably, during the reigns of King William and Queen Anne and King George I, including also the true secret history of the rise, promotions, and the English of Scotch nobility officers, civil, military, naval, and other persons of distinctions from the Revolution in their respective characters at large, drawn up by Mr. Mackey, pursuant to the direction of Her Royal Highness the Princess Sophia, published from his original manuscript, as attested by his son, Spring Mackey, Esquire, the second edition, London, printed in the year. And you'll have to go over the Roman numerals scattered there on the bottom. So this says 36. I think it's like that's one of the numbers. Characters of Charles Lenos, Duke of Richmond, is son to King Charles II by the Duchess of Portsmouth. He was carried by his mother into France in the reign of King James and left France in the reign of King William, when he declared himself for the religion and constitution of his country. He is a gentleman, good-natured to a fault, very good, well-bred, and has many valuable things in him. Is an enemy to business, very credulous, well-shaped, black complexion, much like King Charles, not 30 years old. Now that was one of the characteristics of a grandson of King James. And this is another one. Court of Great Britain, 39, says George Fitzroy, Duke of Northumberland, is son to King Charles II by the Duchess of Cleveland, was one of the captains of King James Horse Guards, which he quitted at the Revolution and never had any post, though sometimes presents from the King King William's reign. On the Queen's accession to the throne, he was made Constable of Windsor Castle and Lieutenant General, and had my Lord of Oxford's raiment of horse. He is a man of honor, nice in paying his debts and living well with his neighbors in the country, does not much care for the conversation of men of quality or business, is a tall black man, like his father, the king, about 40 years old. And the next one is, it says 40 characters of now it says Charles, Duke of St. Albans, is the son to King Charles II by Mrs. Gwynn, was made by King William, one of the bedchambers and captain of the band of prisoners, and sent by that king to France to congratulate the marriage of Duke of Burgundy. He is a gentleman, every way, de bonne nature, well bred, did not love business, and well affected to the constitution of his country. He is of a black complexion, not so tall as the Duke of Northumberland, yet very like King Charles, turned of 30 years old. And there's Charles Fitzroy, Duke of Grafton, is grandson to King Charles II. And to the heirs of Bennett, Earl of Arlington, is a very pretty gentleman, has been abroad in the world, zealous for the Constitution of his country, a tall black man, about 25 years old. Now, that was really important to me because here we are with King Charles II, which is King Charles I, his child. But these are sons and grandson, and grandson of King James. And all these gentlemen are described as black, from King James to his grandchildren. Have this information has been brought out that they were black men, and I found it to be very important to find out. Okay, well, what did his parents look like? What did his children look like? What did their children look like? And these are some of the documented things that we can go and find out exactly whom looked like what. And I feel like there's many reasons why we were not able to get this kind of information, or it was concealed or suppressed from us for a number of years, for a long time. It was said that some of the photographs that you may see of King James, how it's been written, Jacobus on there, and he knew that he was part of the lineage of Jacob, and they understood and knew whom they were. And King James made a point to make sure that his kids understood the covenant and that they understood biblically, what was going on and whom God was, because the Bible was a very huge and large part of their family history. So it has been said for a long, long time that King James was a Hebrew as well. And I believe that to be true, that he did understand whom he was and the lineage that they came from. And even him translating the Bible, and not him himself. So I know some people will say, he didn't do it himself. Yes, of course, he hired some scholars to help compose the Bible, and that is understandable. But I believe that it was very interesting to go back and kind of find out, okay, even if they're saying that he is black, well, what does the rest of the lineage look like? And we know black doesn't just go away overnight. If you have black people within your family, you would have to really be doing a lot of interracial mixing to bleed out your race, especially if you're black. Over time, another race has to continue to come in and then mix with that race and mix with, over and over and over again. But I found it very interesting how these gentlemen were said to be black. So then, even in turn, they must have been marrying black women as well. So that was just another interesting point. And those of you that are still absolutely not sure, I say this all the time: ask God. God will lead you in the correct direction of where you need to be. Go outside of what your comfort zone, because that's how you're going to end up finding a lot of truths about the Bible, is going outside of your comfort zone and breaking down those barriers of what you have been taught and going outside of what you have been programmed. Otherwise, you'll be viewing the world just through one lens. You won't be able to understand what God is talking about and how things have been covered up over time to try to fit what we've been programmed to, hear, see, and say, actually. So it is very good to go back and go over your history to see what happened even then in those times, who was whom. And King James is not the only one that has been said to have, been royal in nations that we see today that we would consider white or European nations. Like the kings of Scott, the kings of Britain, people in Ireland. It has been said that, some of these noble people were black people. There were a lot of them that were black, but we weren't taught that within, especially those of us that went to public school. But I have friends even today that their education, they had a higher education than myself. Their parents had to pay for private school or to send them to universities. And when they got away from public schools and got into private schools, they were taught different curriculum than what we might learn with a free public education or even in the universities. And some of those people, which would be scholars and professors, some of them really, really want to be accurate. So they will dig back, even if it's painful truth, they will dig back and look for real history. Even if the person was whited out and they found, just like King James, they didn't care. Even you can find some of this information at Ohio State as well. They decided, okay, look, even if it's painful, we're going to dig out what King James really looked like. So I want you guys to, do your homework on that if that's something that you want to look forward to, especially those of us that are African American, because I've heard people say, the Bible is the white man's Bible, and, things like that. And that is another thing that is not true. So now that we're uncovering a lot of whom is whom, or who was who, we're starting to see that a lot of the Hebrew history was covered up for a reason, and if the Lord says that we will wake up to these kinds of things, then we're going to wake up to it. So I want you guys to keep in mind, don't just, hear what I say, but you can go and do the research yourself. Research, call places up, go travel, so you can find out whatever truth it is that you're looking for. And thank you all for tuning in. Those that are listening, for tuning in to Power Panel 365.